Ready? Elected members, ladies and gentlemen of the gallery, could you please be upstanding?
Welcome to our March 2026 Council meeting. We'd like to acknowledge the land we meet on today as the traditional land of the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as traditional custodians of the Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to living Kaurna people today. The prayer. We pray for wisdom to provide good governance for the city of Unley and the service of our community. Members will stand in silence in memory of those who have made the supreme sacrifice in the service of their country, at sea, on land and in the air. Lest we forget. Our first item, apologies, Councillor Hughes and Councillor Rogers. Leave of absence, nil. Does any member have any conflict of interest? Okay, minutes of the last meeting I've held, I better read it properly, ordinary council meeting held Monday the 23rd of February 2026. Councillor Bonham, Councillor Beat. Sorry, Councillor Finos, you wish to speak? Councillor Bonham? Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Deferred items, nil. Petitions and deputations, we have two. Catherine Tybman, Broughton Arts Society, if you'd like to come up, Catherine. And I think you've been shown how to press the button. And I'll just check the lights on for you. And if you could speak fairly closely, Catherine, to the microphone. Okay, press the button.
Testing.
That's it. Yep.
Is that too close?
Right. You have 5 minutes. Off you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and councillors, for allowing me the time for this deputation. I'm a current co-vice chair with diplomas in community development, community sector management and soon-to-be governance. Have over 10 years' experience working with a large regional football league at treasurer, secretary and president roles. Beyond this, and perhaps most importantly, myself and the committee of Broughton Arts Society uniformly have a super strength or a superpower, and that's in advocacy, largely because we've had to do this most of our lives. Tonight I note that we should be hearing directly from the people with disabilities at Broughton Art, but in their absence and on their behalf as a sibling, just like some of the members that have come along tonight, for the ageing parents, the grandparents, the carers and friends everywhere, we're here to share how important a place is for them. I would hope that we might be one of the first success stories of Unley Council's new DAIP to listen and prioritise the needs of vulnerable people in the community. Tonight I'm delegated by our chair and life member Alison Rosser OAM to make this address. Quite frankly, she deserves a night off. We are all working hard to take the baton with renewed energy for Broughton's community through a volunteer committee of 7, hopefully soon to increase by 2. This year, we're working through a structured business plan with 6 pillars of focus. In 12 months, we envision being at the level of NDIS provider registration. We're definitely not the same as Tutti Arts yet, but one day we just might be. A quick history: as a young man in his early 20s and a talented artist, the late Ian Broughton's ambition was to provide South Australian people with a physical disability the opportunity to gather around mutual interest in the arts. Ian, who was himself affected by muscular dystrophy and resided at the renamed Julia Farr Centre, went about successfully founding the Arts Society for the Handicapped, with painting and drawing classes beginning in 1966. In 1994, the Society was renamed the Broughton Arts Society Incorporated, in line with current language that is not considered offensive to people with disabilities. The unique service was originally located at Bedford Industries, and then in 1971, with the generosity and support of the City of Unley, the Society moved to its current location, down a little lane within a park in an old tram barn. and the Ian Broughton Memorial Arts Studio opened its door. The Broughton Arts Society is a fully registered charity, and in 2025 we celebrated its 60th anniversary. Today, the quaint and a little bit wonky studio provides a warm, welcoming, messy but safe and unassuming greatness for those who visit. Some quick stats. Together, we support 75 artists. Up to 40% of these artists live in the Unley Council area. 69 artists are funded through NDIS plans for now, and 6 are privately funded. The Society averages a profit each year of around $20,000 to $30,000. The attendance at each class varies between 6 to 8 people, and absences are very rare. Several participants require complex assistance in the studio, and this is provided by their formal paid carers while attending the class. 2 skilled and qualified part-time staff support the artists, and they are Jake and Fiona, who some of you know. They are employed directly by the Broughton Arts Society. Volunteers are thin on the ground, but this is not unusual for any community group right now, and we continue to power on with a tight and efficient leadership group. An annual exhibition is held at Hughes Gallery, and last year this expanded to a second, smaller event. Over 40 artists exhibit and make cash sales, which they are extremely proud of. In 2026, Broughton artists will for the first time enter the Sala Festival in a partnership arrangement. As a committee, we are well aware that the much-loved tram barn is a bit like one of your favourite old armchairs. Nobody cares if a little bit of soup spills on it or a sandwich crust gets wedged in its corner. Its springs might poke through at any minute and the legs could fall off. But there is no place our artists would rather be. The armchair could be reupholstered. It could be swapped out for a bigger couch to share with more people. It could be traded for something almost equally as comfy and equally forgiving of glue and paint. The possibilities are endless for more detailed exploration. We hope that, like us and Ian Broughton, that you will seek to support these artists in a carefully thought-out vision for the future. On behalf of our small but strong committee, I thank each of you for your time in listening and considering the future of the Broughton art community. Thank you.
Well timed.
Told you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.
Any questions from members? Jennifer?
Yes.
Sorry, Councillor Bonham.
Thanks for your deputation. I was wondering about, I suppose we've been concerned of the possibilities for sharing the Broughton art space with other artists. So could you tell us what the current timing of the classes are for Broughton Arts and the potential for sharing that space?
Yep, the classes are currently between 9:30 and 2:30 with a bit of space either side for packing up, tidying up. They're not held on weekends or evenings, so the space is available at that time. We have checked the temperature with our committee on that possible scenario, and there isn't a great deal of resistance to sharing the space at the moment. In fact, we can see some direct benefits in terms of the people that currently use Broughton Arts, having that exposure to other art forms, other people, a really inclusive space.
Councillor Doyle.
Through the chair. Thank you, Kathy, for your deputation. It's really important to hear directly from the society and representatives. I've actually got a couple of questions. One is currently there's no lease agreement in place between Council and Broughton Arts. If it was possible for us to do so, is that something Broughton Arts would be interested in signing?
I think that would just be accepted as a normal part of occupying that space. In fact, if anything, right now we probably feel a little at risk because we don't have that kind of documentation in place. Yeah. Thank you.
And another question through the chair, Michael. Mayor?
Yes, thank you. I got it wrong straight up with Jennifer.
I was going to touch a little bit more on the wonky couch sort of thing. And you've mentioned there might be a bit of anxiety about the lack of an agreement and perhaps about the state of the building. Can you provide any more detail on, say, an example or something that demonstrates having to make do with a facility that's aged, I guess?
Look, I think just the discussion on this matter has caused significant anxiety already. I think our crew, our people with disabilities, change is probably the worst thing that can be anticipated for them. I'm probably getting off track now, sorry. But go on, bring me back. Sorry.
Yeah, it was more, I guess.
Yep, sorry.
It was more.
That's all right. Councillor Gaffey's got the next question. Sorry. Thanks, Councillor.
I think it's more about the facility itself. So some of the essential parts of operating in a facility like that, so say electrics, water, the building itself.
Yeah.
So is it working well for you at the moment?
Not at the moment, and it probably does keep some of us up at night in terms of that risk. It is very old. If we've ever gone to, like currently we're looking at just replacing a small hot water service, and that's prompted a couple of other, almost a domino effect, I would suggest, of other things that need to happen, and a lot of tradies going... a lot of pain points, I guess, for how that might happen in such an older style building. Yeah.
And I've got one more. It has been raised, the issue of parking and traffic on the site. Can you give us an idea of how well it's currently working and how it's currently working?
I think there's enough space there. The space isn't used well, and it's, to me, I would describe it as a bit of a bush track. So once your car is in there, it's not paved, so people are navigating dirt bumps and humps and trying to get through that. I think that if it was given some treatment, that area could be used a lot more effectively. Car parks aren't marked, that's another issue, so people kind of park where they think best. Yeah.
Councillor Gaffey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Catherine, for your deputation. It was very informative. You spoke about the potential for the society to move to a different facility if it was available, if that was something in Council's long-term plans. Is that something that you would consider if Council had a different sort of view for where arts would be, that if there was a space set up, that you would be able to move?
I think they would be hard to sell. I think they love that area. For many of them, that's very much their community area as well. The Arkabar Medical Centre is where a lot of them attend, also the shopping area. So it's really, you know, in Unley, it's the little neighbourhood for them. And I think that moving somewhere else could shift that. It would certainly require a lot of work with the artists to make sure they felt comfortable as well. I'm not 100% sure that they would feel comfortable.
Okay. Councillor Crabb.
Thank you. Through the chair, thank you, Catherine, for your deputation tonight. I'm just curious, you mentioned that there may be other groups that would be able to access the space depending on how this evolved. I'm just wondering if the capacity of the space was increased as a result of any future works, do you see that there would be demand from more artists who do have disabilities to access that space within both the City of Unley but more broadly as well?
Yeah, we have a current wait list of at least 3 or 4 people who've been waiting for spaces to open for them to join. As I said, it's always full. They have had other artists attend, but they've been people without disabilities, and I think that's really valuable to highlight, that instead of othering them, I guess, and making them be in their own group, the beauty of a crossover with people who are not disabled can be really valuable as well for all sides. Yeah. Did I answer that? Sorry. Yeah.
Councillor Bonham, yes. I'll have one more and then I'll move on with the next.
Yes, last question. Kathy, apart from the concern, the real concern for artists in actually moving to another location, what is it about the arts centre itself, Broughton Arts itself, the tram barn, that is important for those artists, as opposed, say, to a more modern facility that we might build for them?
Who has been there? Has anyone? Oh, fantastic. Great. I would
Yes,
think
I've been there too. I've been there a few times.
I would think the magic kind of speaks for itself. I think it's quite I want to say messy, but not in a, oh dear, we're thinking it's unsafe messy. It's messy as in if something gets dropped on the floor, it doesn't matter. If something gets run across a table, that also doesn't matter. I think that is one of the really key and important parts about that space. And even in sharing it, that could be an issue as well. I think a few of us were concerned about some of the newer, I would call them vanilla spaces, that you can't put anything on the wall, and if you drop something on the floor, your bond's gone or you're in big trouble for that. I think the warmth and the welcoming of that place is what makes it so special. I spent about 30 minutes there the other day waiting for a plumber, and I had a conversation with one of the artists who I thought, wow, I want to get you on a conversation starter course. She was going forever. It's the magic that happens in there, and I think it's because it's cosy and it's comfortable. That's what sort of makes the difference for people.
Thanks.
Does that answer it?
Thank you, Catherine. Okay, Daniel.
Sorry, thank you.
Oh, I'm off?
Yes, thank you.
Great.
Yes,
Thank
I
you
did.
so much.
Yeah. I did.
Daniel was talking about.
Daniel, you're talking about the bike pathway, walking pathway infrastructure on Green Hill Road.
Thank you, and good evening, councillors and Lord Mayor. I'm speaking to you tonight on behalf of the Unley Bicycle User Group. We're a community group with now over 600 members advocating for people who walk, cycle and wheel in and around our city. I'm here this evening to urge you all to support the motion before you tonight to begin the process of investigating a walking and cycling path along the north boundary of our city, along Green Hill Road. Tonight I'm going to outline why we as Unley Bug think this path is important, and also why Unley is uniquely placed to make it happen. So why is it important? You would all be aware that the City of Unley has an unusually low amount of public open space compared to other councils in Adelaide. However, what we are blessed with is having close access to one of the best public parks in the state, that is the parklands, just across our northern border. The problem is that the parklands are hard to get to. If the place you want to go isn't right at one of the few crossings, you're stuck. At the moment, all there is along that southern boundary of the parklands is a narrow dirt goat track. If you want to get to one of the many sporting or community facilities in those parklands, you're out of luck. The same goes if you need to catch a bus to or from work at one of those bus stops on that side of the road. The dirt path that is there is not accessible, and nor is it safe enough for all members of our community. It's not good enough. What Unley Bug would love to see here is that this dirt path is formalised and upgraded to the quality of other parklands boundary paths. For example, there's the one on the north of Adelaide near the Aquatic Centre. There's one on the east near the Fringe, or even just on the other side of the southern parklands along South Terrace. All of these have wide, convenient shared use paths with good visibility and good lighting. They're great for people walking, and they're great for cycling. Speaking of which, the other reason that a path along the southern parklands is so important is because it would serve to connect a whole host of existing and future cycling routes that either cross Green Hill Road or connect to it. So they include the City Crafers Bikeway, the Rugby Porter Bikeway, the Mike Turner Bikeway, the Parklands Trail, several of Unley's neighbourhood bike routes, Merino Rocks Greenway, and eventually a state government shared path along Richmond Road. To make these connections now, you either have to go well out of your way, or what's more likely to happen, you have to ride on Green Hill Road itself, and that's not just safe, that needs no explanation. A path along Green Hill Road along the southern parklands would make this popular east-west connection much safer for everyone. Secondly, why should Unley be making a move for a new path along Green Hill Road? You know, aren't the parklands a responsibility of the City of Adelaide? Well, Unley Bug has heard that the edge of the parklands actually belong to the City of Unley, giving us a real say in what happens there. But regardless of that, Unley residents and people who visit Unley are the ones who stand to benefit the most from a path along the southern parklands, from better access to the parklands and a safer, more convenient way to walk and cycle along the north of our city. It's for these reasons that the City of Unley is uniquely placed to begin this project. Yes, it's going to take time, and yes, it will involve working closely with the City of Adelaide and the City of Burnside and the state government, but someone has to start first, and that's the decision that's before you tonight. So to conclude, I'd like to share an anecdote. Whenever I've talked to anyone about a path along the southern parklands, that's friends, family, colleagues, without fail, I get the same response. People are surprised that it's not there already, and they want it to happen ASAP. I think this is because people can immediately see the benefits that such a path would bring, and so I hope do you tonight, councillors. So once again, on behalf of the community of people who walk, cycle and wheel in and around Unley, I urge you to support the motion before you tonight to begin the process of making this path a reality. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Any questions? Councillor Russo.
Through the chair. First of all, Daniel, are you aware that this is not the first motion that has actually been presented to council, and that in 2022, based on community residents coming to me as the Unley ward resident, that an exact motion has been. So there has been conversations and it has started. So that's my first question. Are you aware that it has started? This is not the beginning, it has started.
Yes, we are aware. We would just like it to really happen, but we thank council for starting this process several years ago.
Okay, and my second question then is, obviously at that time we didn't have your engagement, I would say, is fair to say. I guess what I'd be interested to know that, yes, we're on this wheel again, and yes, there is other parties that will be involved, and there has been some movement that has occurred with this. It's not a foreign idea to Adelaide City Council, but I guess what is, I guess, your role as, because I don't think you need to convince us, that's just my personal view, but what is your role, do you think, as a community group, and it would be a big community user and your members, what's your position on how you can also, I guess, continue to position not just with us, but with other parties?
Yes, a tricky one, but no, this is a tricky project because it's on the boundary between multiple councils and also involves the state government heavily. So I guess what really has to happen is to bring everyone together. And what Unley Bug has been doing is, this was one of our state election wish lists. And out of giving that to all the candidates in Unley and Badco, we actually got some good meetings with the candidates, some of the ministers at the time, some of the MPs at the time, and then through that, eventually DIT. So we will continue to, I guess, be the glue that brings everyone together. We've also talked to some City of Adelaide councillors as well. That's what we can do, or what we have the power to do as a community group, and this is part of that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Okay, well, I'd like to bring forward item 5.11 before 4.1. Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Those in favour, just indicate if I've got 2/3 to bring through. Yep, thanks. That's 2/3. Okay. Next, we move on to the reports of committees. I just explained to the gallery, I'm just making sure that the presenters, their items are early in the agenda and not stuck at number 5. Yep.
Excuse me, Your Worship, is it possible to move item 4.2 ahead, as we've had a deputation on that as well?
Yeah, considered that. There's only the Fullerton Traffic Management Plan. That's the only one before it. It's 4.2.
Are we able to move it ahead of
Yeah, you can move if you want 4.2 to be brought forward to
I'd like to move that item 4.2 be brought and discussed now.
Second, those in favour. That's 2/3, thank you. 5.11 and then 4.2. Good. I've just written down my order. Now, we do the reports of committees next. First one, the minutes of the BDAC. Yes. There we go. Sorry, what was the question?
Bring those forward to be discussed and voted on now so that people would be able to leave rather than going through the reports.
Sorry? Yeah, we're going to do the minutes first. We did the minutes the last meeting. We'll do the other minutes stuff. We'll get to that stuff first. Okay, somebody like to move the BDAC minutes, please. Committee meeting. Thank you, Councillor Palmer.
Yeah, so item 3.1, minutes of BDAC. Just let me pull it up. Okay, this motion covers a number of initiatives considered by BDAC as worthy of Council's consideration, as follows. Item 2.1, BDAC is of the view that we should try to better understand a myriad of observations around the economy of Unley, so going further than we have before. Of interest, one such item is whether we should consider the benefit of short-stay accommodation as an economic generator, particularly given they are now subject to commercial rather than residential rating. Item 2.2, BDAC recognises the potential and therefore the need to explore not only options for Keswick Barracks, but look at Unley Road's infrastructure and the state government-owned storage site on Unley Road. Item 2.3, importantly, BDAC supports the continuation of the separate rate for the main road precincts, but, and I hope everyone hears this one, they believe that the funding should be targeted. Even more importantly, BDAC is recommending we ignore the quantum of the funding requests that we have received from the street traders in favour of simply increasing funding across the board in line with CPI. And that's as set at December, of course. Then we have item 2.5. And that reinforces earlier observations regarding short-term accommodation by calling on Council to better understand the economic benefits of short-stay accommodation by holding a focus group on the subject. Finally, BDAC believes we should encourage a more strategic approach to the 4 established precincts. These recommendations, I believe, are all sound and worthy of us considering adopting.
Okay, the motion, seconded. Thank you. Wish to speak?
I do. Thank you, Your Worship. I just want a commentary on item 2.7. As a presiding member's report does not appear in these council papers, I would just like to provide a rough summary of the report. BDAC continues to play a vital and critical role in supporting the City of Unley economic development priorities and long-term strategic directions. The commencement of this term of BDAC introduced and refreshed membership with expertise in the following: economic development, urban renewal, investment attraction, entrepreneurship, placemaking, and market intelligence. This strengthens BDAC's capacity to contribute to long-term strategic planning, including early thinking into the 4-year delivery plan and the 10-year economy plan, and major city shaping and precinct activation initiatives aligned with the community plan towards 2050. Attendance from members was strong, reflecting a high degree of commitment and engagement from both independent and obviously elected members. The continuous council representation combined with the expanded skill sets of the newly appointed independent members positions the committee to continue offering robust, well-informed advice to guide economic development decision-making in the years ahead. As we enter 2026, BDAC remains focused on supporting the delivery of Council's economic objectives under the Community Plan towards 2050 and providing strategic direction with initiatives that strengthen local business, attract investment, enhance precinct vitality and support a diverse and future-focused economy. Thank you.
Councillor Russo, you wish to speak?
I'd like to ask a question through the chair. In regards to, I guess, the separate rate and where that's landed as a definition, but also that you've got here the administration can investigate the separate rate operating model. At what stage does that then come back to council? Because obviously it's been a very long road with that and stop-start, and I'm just interested to know from a working group's perspective of where they see that landing with council for decision making.
Through the chair, we would hope for the April agenda to bring you a paper regarding the separate rate and how that's being utilised in line with some of the recommendations or advice that we received from BDAC for the 26-27 direction. So just to be clear, that's regarding the change of wording for calling of the separate rate, not any broader changes than that.
Yes, yep.
Doesn't work for follow-up questions. So that's fine, but obviously my understanding was that they're also looking broadly around how that model, a change of that model as well, not just the wording, but is that still part of the plan or the work plan for BDAC to do that, or is that just on hold at the moment?
So part of what the April agenda will look at is the ways in which we can better support the trader associations and whether that's a divided or a centralised approach and whether the separate rate can help support council providing more direction in that.
Councillor Bonham.
Yes, I think part of the question's been answered with that one, but with that item 2.3, the BDAC recommends to council that, I'm taking it that some of those items are simply for our consideration, but it does concern me that it recommends for others that we actually adopt those here. Is that a correct reading of that? So some are saying recommends to council that we consider, or the funding requests, etc.
It's a very good question, because if it's to adopt it, then we're usurping the role of the Finance Committee and its role to play.
It's only a recommendation to council.
I believe the manner in which it was provided was to provide, I guess, a reflection that BDAC has considered that and believes that to be an appropriate wording. What we have intended to do is bring a standalone report to council in April, which will help contextualise that.
Okay, so all of those points are really advice to council rather than that we're accepting either that wording or some of the other points.
They're just recommendations to council for consideration. That's my interpretation of it.
The basic question is, by adopting this report, are we adopting the recommendations? That's the fundamental question.
The answer is no, they're recommendations.
Good. If the minutes could reflect the question and the answer, please. The question is, by adopting the BDAC report, are we adopting the recommendations that are in the report as council policy, basically? The answer is no, we're receiving them as advice. Okay, thank you. No. Okay, those mover? Who's moved this motion? I can't.
Closed.
Sorry, Councillor Palmer did, yes. Closed. Those in favour? Unanimous. You want to bring forward the other two items? 4.2, how authority reserve. I have a... What's
Through
the
the Chair,
procedure? Is that appropriate?
Through the Chair, could I just please indulge you, members? If we go back to this one, because we are just struggling at the moment with, I believe that this should be, just for everyone to be absolutely clear, in the lead into item 2.1, it should be, and the following recommendations contained therein be considered by council or something like that.
Yeah.
Not adopted by council. My apologies for that, but we need to get it right.
Okay. Are you happy with that, Councillor Palmer? And the Secretary's happy with that? Anybody objecting? I don't know how we take a vote, but if we noted that the Chair asked for the mover and seconder and the members if everybody was happy, and everybody's very happy. Content. Okay. Now, now, just want a bit of advice. We have an agenda. I've asked to bring forward items as chair. Is it appropriate to governance that I accept a motion to bring an item forward from the floor? Okay, I'm allowed to do that? Yep. Is there a seconder? No speakers. Those in favour? Wonderful. We'll now do item 4.2. And Councillor Doyle, would you like to move?
Yes, I would. So we've provided administration with a new option for this motion. Just wait till that's come up.
And thank you for trying to get something and with wording and everything that's foreseen, Councillor Doyle, appreciated. And thank you for responding to the feedback I've had and moving in those terms.
Okay.
Is everybody quite clear?
Yep. Okay, I move the motion that's before you. Okay, so thank you, Kathy, for speaking tonight. It's really important to hear from a representative of Broughton Arts Society in this context. I think, I believe that the society is in good hands with the current committee, and it's got a vision for the future, and its sustainable governance is on track. And I think we would all be mindful of compliance matters under the NDIS. So that's important, I think. And I also wanted to mention, many elected members would be aware of Broughton Arts Society. We have visited the building, but many others have attended the art exhibition, and they would understand that Broughton Arts Society is a very meaningful, valuable, essential group. We're voting on whether to proceed to concept designs tonight, or we were going to. However, we're not sure of a number of things. Costings, what would work in the available space, planning and architectural concerns, traffic and parking. I'd just like to note, in the report it states there are 3 car park spaces, but there are at least 6, and there could be more on the site. So that's just a correction there to the information in the report. The business case for any redevelopment there, what are council's responsibilities in relation to the care and control of the reserve and associated buildings? The land is Crown land, which we do not own, but we're responsible for its care and control. Sorry, I said that. I just wanted to talk about the costings. The cost estimates of option 1 and 2 are I think, vastly higher than what the current market might be for build and construct. I'm not an expert, but many of us here aren't experts, and so that's where I think some advice on that would be helpful. I understand the costs are very preliminary, but the way I looked into it, which is very basic, speaking to builders, 4,500 per square metre would be at the high end sometimes in Adelaide. The costings we're being presented with are 2.2 to 2.7 times the higher cost estimate. Remember talking about on the oval fence, and Councillor Palmer gave an analogy on the costings we were provided with at the start. So at that rate, option 3 would be $15 million, which I don't think we would entertain. Planning and architectural concerns. We're considering options without knowing the available land size, what size footprint is possible and what's permitted on the site. Some people are ruling out options without understanding what is possible. Traffic and parking. I believe users of Broughton Arts Society do get dropped off, so they don't actually park in the car park. They use access cabs and minivans and things like that. So the configuration does need to be thought out properly. The business case. So the business case isn't always about monetary value. Broughton Arts Society aligns with our DAPE, Disability Access Inclusion Plan, and our community plan. It's a very unique space in Adelaide. I don't believe there's anything else like it, really. And we've heard that the Broughton Arts is open to sharing the space with another group, and that makes a little bit more sense if we are building a new building, say, for more than just one user group. Deferring this item would give us more time to engage with those using the space, artists and people living with disability. In terms of the care and control of the land, what does this mean in this context? Could we request that the land be handed over to council prior to any redevelopment commencing? I mean, there's lots of questions that we hope to get answers to. I think some of these complexities have led us to where we are and the reasons why the building has not had any attention for some years. Should we go for the Band-Aid approach? Is it worth it? Or is it just throwing good money after bad in terms of the building structure? We don't know. So just to wind up, we have many unanswered questions. I think engaging with Broughton Arts and its users is necessary and the right way forward. If we were to have a briefing, it would be very valuable. We could learn where things stand, be better informed and make a better decision on this.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you want to have one last sentence?
No, that's about everything.
Happy? Good. Councillor Bonham.
I'll second this motion and reserve my right.
Is there a second for the vote be put? The vote is the vote be put. Those in favour? That's a majority. The vote will be put. Those in favour of the motion, please indicate. Sorry, Councillor Roach. Yes, can you put your hand? Blocked my view. Unanimous. Okay, next item. The next two items are the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee, but since you wanted to bring forward that item, what about the item 511 to go into that spot? Those in favour, just give me an indication. We'll now do item 511. Councillor Brunetsky.
Well, first of all, I'd like to acknowledge the advocacy by
Daniel. Or you both?
Seconding. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, we've got lights on.
She's first.
Yeah, light off, thanks. Thank you. Now, your light can go on. There we go. Thank you, Councillor.
Okay, we've got an order now?
Yep,
okay,
we've got it.
All right. Look, I'd like to acknowledge the advocacy by UBUG in raising the need for improved cycling infrastructure along the northern edge of Green Hill Road from Anzac Highway to Glen Osmond Road. The path along the northern side of Green Hill Road is just a dirt track, and it's totally unacceptable for walking and cycling. As stated in the briefing, this matter has been raised in the past by Councillor Russo through a motion on notice on the 28th of February 2022, which stated, the City of Unley write to Adelaide City Council, Caterpillar Adelaide Parklands Authority and Department of Infrastructure and Transport to commence discussions around potential planning of a joint initiative project for the Green Hill Road corridor. And then there was an intention to move a motion by Councillor Chris Crabb at a meeting on the 27th of March 2023, which stated, a letter be sent to the CEO of the City of Adelaide requesting a briefing by ACC staff to the City of Unley's elected members on the Adelaide Parklands Management Strategy 2015 to 2025, highlighting opportunities for projects and further engagement in the review process in the vicinity of Green Hill Road, which would provide amenity to residents from both cities, as well as outline opportunities for Council to further engage in the City Council's current review of the strategy. These motions started the process of setting future agendas, which we have here now. The briefing by Gemma Kleinig on the 19th of June 2023, whilst focused largely on parking, provided information about the configuration of the northern Green Hill Road path in relation to trees, Stobie poles, car parking and ownership, and generated communication with the Lord Mayor of the Adelaide City Council. The strategic outlook for the City of Unley has now evolved to one of housing densification and emphasis on the development of active transport infrastructure. It's simply not acceptable not to create safe infrastructure for alternative modes of transport, particularly along a major cycling corridor such as Green Hill Road. The safety of those using active transport is underscored along Green Hill Road because it's the state's most risky road to ride along, according to the RAA. Between 2017 and 2021, there were 54 casualties. The main crash types were 31% side swipes, 26% right turns, and 22 right angle crashes. The casualty rates involving cyclists on Green Hill Road over the past 10 years haven't changed. However, in the most recent 5-year period, compared with the preceding 5 years, there were 50% more serious crashes. In a survey of 390 people in 2022, Green Hill Road was nominated to be the top riskiest road for cycling in South Australia, particularly the section between Glen Osmond Road and Fullerton Road. And in looking at the crash data heat map, the evidence should provide Burnside Council with compelling evidence that they need to get on board for this, for their section from Glen Osmond Road to Fullerton Road. The risks are not just in relation to cycling along the narrow Green Hill Road bike lane. It includes the Fullerton Road intersection, as well as crossing Green Hill Road in various locations. Furthermore, the Green Hill Road bike lane is part-time, operating between 7 and 10 a.m. and 3 and 7 p.m, Monday to Friday. The rest of the time, the outer lane of Green Hill Road is a parking lane. Providing parking is important in relation to businesses there, but it just highlights that the bike lane is woefully inadequate and a completely different solution needs to be seriously considered. The best way to solve this matter is to pursue a dedicated walking and cycling path along Green Hill Road that negates the need for cyclists to be on a very, very busy and unsafe road, and to ensure that we engage not only the Adelaide City Council, but also Burnside Council. The matter needs to be investigated by administration at the officer level and include engagement with the Department of Transport and Infrastructure, with the intent to make it a priority project in the next walking cycling plan. Can I have another minute, please?
Yes, an extension of 2 minutes has been asked for. Do I get 2/3? Those in favour, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just about finished. A number of plans and strategies, as outlined in the report, are coalescing now, including the new Parklands Management Strategy. So now is the time to move this matter forward and work towards a dedicated active transport corridor along Greenhill Road.
Thank you. Councillor Russo, you may have had your blinking mic
No.
on first.
No, I was always going to second. It was
Okay.
somehow I thought
Okay, I've
hers was
done
on.
the right
It's okay.
thing, good.
No, I was always planning to second. I'd like to.
Okay, so you'd like to speak now?
Yes, I'd like to speak to it. This motion will be supported, and I believe the chamber here will support it because it's been supported in the past. Yes, that was 4 years ago, with another attempt in between to elevate it again. And it's with frustration that we are yet again writing to our neighbours to get, I guess, action in regards to this. But I'm also questioning our action as the City of Unley in regards to making this a priority, as outlined by Councillor Broniski regarding to the cycling and walking plan and where it fits in with our direction there. But my concern has been that despite multiple questions and asking along the way, where are we at? Where is this at? What's happening? What is the collaboration kind of thing? So therefore I'm concerned that the motion itself is a little bit on the weak side. If anything, I would like to see stronger action being taken in regarding to what those next steps can be. But happy for where it's going and hoping that this time the intention to move forward and to have some form of actual action taking place, not more conversations. And yes, we'll put it in our plan and we'll have them lots in plans, but with no actually action to collaborate together on what this looks like. We could be here for another 4 years. There needs to be some commitment in the delivery, in the outputs of what this. I don't think it's a question of not needing it. I think there's lots of talk and I think there's agreement that this is something that needs to be done. But I think maybe the Adelaide Parklands Authority may have some different views on it with how much is going to be used for a track, because I know that can be sensitive, but considering what we're actually asking from a safety point of view, I don't see this being an issue that needs to be continually a motion every 2 to 3 years to try and get some action. So I guess I'm pushing on administration to look at, well, what is the strategy? You've heard from council now multiple times that we think this is really important. Yes, we can't make other councils participate or collaborate, but I think we need to put the pressure on to ensure that this now moves to that next level, which I'd like to see some actual output, some things actually happening, plans starting to be not just talked about, but budgeted for, timelines, things like that. It needs to get to that level in the next, I would say, 2 years at least.
Okay. First up, you asked a couple of questions about what's happened. I was delighted to receive the letter from you, Bug. I've already written on my own behalf, but not council's behalf, to both the mayors and the councils. Already had discussions directly with both of them. I've had pretty enthusiastic responses from it. I would like a copy of Councillor Brunetsky's speech, because it contains the sorts of stats and information that would go nicely with a new letter. I think this proposal now, with the initiative and what's behind it, and with the development of the growing Unley and everything else, I think often there's a time and a place where things become so obvious to everybody that if you do it right, it can just happen. And doing it right, I would be grateful and would ask you to support, once again, a motion, but this motion backed up with a need for both walking and cycling along the length. So I'm speaking a bit early and gazumping it, but we have passed it before, which is why I'm not waiting until everybody else has spoken. Now, if there's things asked of administration, I'll hand over to CO.
Through the chair, if council want to proceed with this project, we will have to look at a budget allocation to undertake design work next year. We've got a full program already, so we'll have to outsource that. But certainly we could look at putting together an initiative for council to consider in the next, probably won't have it ready by Wednesday night, but certainly in the next month or so.
Okay. And I suspect that partly answers the question about having something to back up with what we're proposing. But first up, what I would probably need to do is get the approval of the other two mayors and councils to get the three administrations to work together. That's what I'll be working to achieve. Now, next one, Councillor Bonham.
Yes, surprise, surprise. I'll be supporting this most definitely. And thank you, Councillor Brunitsky, for bringing it back to Council and reactivating this. As has been pointed out in Administration's report, Council has put in submissions to Adelaide City Council Parkland Strategy advocating for this. Luke and I have been pursuing it in our ward briefings, so I think across the board many of us have actually been supporting this. I'm glad this time the focus is definitely on walking and cycling. In a previous iteration there was also the inclusion of parking, and I think Councillor Russo has mentioned that. One of DIT's briefings, I think, was in relation to parking. So I'm really glad that the focus is on walking and cycling in this one. I just really want to add to what's already been said about our residents benefiting from this. It was pointed out very early on in this process by Mr Willsmore, the benefit of this east-west cycle, walking and cycling path in terms of the increased number of residents that we're going to see along Green Hill Road into the future. So this is going to also, it'll serve as a really important commuter path, but also in terms of a recreational path for that increase in housing along Green Hill Road and the number of residents we'll see.
Councillor Doyle.
Thank you.
And then Councillor Roach.
I was just going to make one suggestion for a variation. One thing, point 2 there is talking about council representative, local government. Would the mover consider perhaps...
hang on, you're going to ask the chair.
Okay, Chair, would the move... I'm still asking
Yeah, you asked me,
mover,
and then I'll handle whether the mover...
consider adding in political representatives or parliamentary...
You're asking me whether I'll consider it as a variation. Okay.
State government representatives. Because we're talking about local government, but state government plays a significant role here. So that's my question.
Okay, my answer is that the parklands at the moment have got a parklands authority. It's generally, unless the state government come marching over the top, handled by the Adelaide City Council, and we've got a few metres right along the length, and so we should be able to work together as the three councils, but very sensibly, we are would obviously hope for 50% funding of something like this from state government funding, and so clearly it would be very sensible of us to work as a team to try and get funding not just from ourselves but from the government as well. Okay.
So that was my question. I don't know if there's an answer.
Yes. Is it needed? Yep.
I would tend to agree. I just don't think it's needed at this stage. If in due course that would be a requirement, that will kind of bubble up. But at this point, I'm quite happy where things have landed in terms of the motion.
Okay, thank you. I just thought I'd ask that first, but now I'd like to speak. Thank you, CEO, for the suggestion as well to make it into something more tangible. I think Councillor Russo was looking for something a little bit more tangible, having visited and revisited this. Thank you, Councillor Baretsky, for raising this again. Yes, we've all frequently raised this at various levels. We've all mentioned that it's an obvious lack there in that location. The difficulty working with neighbouring councils as well. I think many of us have probably raised it before informally with other councillors from neighbouring councils and had varying levels of enthusiasm. I think, and Councillor Bonham's right, the business case for this is the huge uplift along Green Hill Road. State government targets forcing us to do that, and it's in our planning for growth targets as well. We need to make sure residents along Green Hill Road and more broadly can move east-west, can get to train and tram stations, can get to main roads for shops and restaurants, to connect with the north-south cycleways. It would open up the South Parklands for better use and appreciation by the public. Other people have mentioned the South Parklands are probably some of the least maintained in Adelaide. Opposite the showgrounds becomes a big open-air car park. So hopefully a shared track along there would improve the South Parklands for the use by the growing population there. There will be complexity, as we know, with Forestville, with the removal of the tension between removal of trees and cycling infrastructure. But so what? We just need to do it. So, yeah, I support this. The other complexity there, the Mayor has touched on who's going to pay, so that's still a bit unknown. But obviously, it's in our interest to be involved.
Let me tell you, we'll be the major payer. Councillor Roach, does anybody want to speak against the motion? You had your light on, Councillor Roach, so unless anybody else wishes to speak, I'd like to put the motion.
I'm fully in support of the motion,
Yeah.
and reinforced by the comments of the other councillors, particularly around increased growth along Green Hill Road in terms of residences. But one thing to include in the investigation is that there's also a very significant bush care site that has remnant vegetation and was one of the reasons why they didn't put the horses on that site because of that. So it's not only just the stovey poles and the trees, there's also bush care and remnant vegetation that has to be taken into account. That's close to Joslyn Street, across that side.
One of 3 locations for a very rare butterfly that lives part of its life in an ant's nest. Mover? Close.
Things to say?
Oh, yeah. One tried.
Just to bring home this whole argument, the RAA in 2022 crowdsourced data provided credible information about the cycling experience in South Australia and generated 390 responses. The top suggestions for Green Hill Road, the riskiest road for cyclists in all of South Australia to improve this situation, were a new shared path on the northern side of the parklands, new cycle lanes, new separated cycle lanes. Traffic volumes on Green Hill Road are very high, with average of more than 51,000 vehicles per day travelling the section between Goodwood Road and George Street alone. Cyclists are beside that traffic and could potentially, cyclists are travelling against or along with traffic at speeds up to 60 kilometres an hour, which is, completely unacceptable in such a narrow space. There are also gaps in the cycle lanes between Fullerton Road and Glen Osmond Road, especially in the westbound direction. The main hotspots for cyclist crashes on Green Hill Road within the city of Unley, according to the RAA heat map, is between the Anzac Highway and Glen Osmond Road. That's our whole northern boundary, which means that it's incumbent on us to deal with this high-risk matter by moving ahead with plans to establish a dedicated active transport pathway along the northern edge of the parklands. We need to bear in mind also that other forms of active transport are increasing, such as scooters, and it's also anticipated that the demand for such infrastructure will only increase, particularly with densification up and down Green Hill Road. We were sent an email from Penn Bennett on Sunday, which clearly articulates from a cyclist perspective the risks of riding along the Green Hill Road bikeway, calling it a Mordstråkje. Now, if anybody is interested, they would have looked that term up. And it's a very apt description of what it's like to cycle along Green Hill Road and how risky it is. Uncertain riders would not use that cycle lane, and God forbid if children went down that bike lane. So the zeitgeist for dealing with this is now, so please support this motion.
Okay, those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. And thank you indeed to everybody involved, both past and present, and Tanya. I'm looking forward to your work on this one. Audit Committee, yep, going back to it. 3-1-1. 3-2. Councillor Bonham, thank you. And then Councillor Gaffey, second.
Yes, I would ask people to support the report of or minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee. I think the summary report at page 28 is really good. It provides an excellent user-friendly overview of the committee's deliberations. So I'm just going to pick out a few items that particularly I think I'd like to draw to people's attention. So first of all, on the long-term financial plan, and this is advice from our committee to council. They suggested that we bear in mind the impacts of state government infrastructure, investment on costs to council over the long-term financial plan, over the duration of that, acknowledges that while we want to meet financial targets, they provide council the capacity to respond to emerging opportunities and risks. So while the Audit and Risk Committee certainly support the targets that we've set, they do see them as targets that give us that extra capacity to respond to those risks. In terms of internal audits, what the important point I think I took away from this was the Audit and Risk Committee, our independent members were really impressed by the internal audits universe and the level of detail on that, the providing a typology of audits with specific audit items under each topic. And they went so far as to suggest that we share this format with other councils. They thought that was a really useful way of setting out the internal audits, how they're being addressed, at what time frame, when they're completed, etc. So it gives us a really good overview. The policy and procedures update, we were well behind with reviewing our policies. They are now over 75% up to date. And the plan is for 90% of our policies to be current by May, and that's quite a huge effort on behalf of staff. We also approved the work plan for the coming year, which, as I've got to know the Audit and Risk Committee a little bit more, basically we're looking systematically at each of those items we've looked at previously, each year going through them. So review of the long-term financial plan, review of the annual business plan and budget, review of the financial statements, liaising with auditors, and receiving updates on their progress, receiving quarterly risk reports, and getting presentations from council's subsidiaries, but also ad hoc presentations through the course of that. As discussed at our briefing on Monday night, Councillor Gaffey brought to everyone's attention that we had a presentation on the lease and licensing. That was at the most recent meeting, but it's these kinds of ad hoc presentations on technology and so forth that also helps bring the Audit and Risk Committee up to date with goings on and concerns, risks in councils that we're looking at.
Councillor Gaffey, seconding it.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Mayor Hewitts and fellow councillors, members of the public. Just reviewing what Councillor Bonham said, we were sort of looking at the minutes of the December meeting for the Audit and Risk Committee. It sort of reminds me of the Chinese phrase, may you live in interesting times. As I read this minutes, it seems like it was such a long time ago. This meeting set out the 2026-2027 annual business plan and budget and set the foundation for working on our 10-year long-term financial plan. The committee spent considerable time examining key assumptions and the financial targets that guide our decision-making over the coming year. The Chief Financial Officer, or as it seems to be reported in both of the sets of minutes, Chief Financial Officer, so you might want to see if we get that checked, Alex, walked us through the prudent parameters for 2026-2027. These included at the time the Adelaide CPI forecast of 3%. As we'd all be aware, that seems like such a long time ago, and whether we're going to see that in our plans will be interesting as we move forward. The estimates were an average rates increase of 3%, modest growth from new development and continued strong investment in our community. We're budgeting $13.3 million for asset renewals and $16.5 million for new capital projects, including the UMAG. The committee was reassured that our core financial ratios were firmly on target, an operating surplus ratio of 4.7%, net financial liabilities ratio well under the maximum of 80% that we've set our ceiling as, forecast to be just 34%. Both the asset renewal funding ratio and the asset sustainability ratio are sitting at or above 100%, confirming that the City of Unley's state is financially strong, sustainable and well positioned to deliver the services into the future. As has been discussed, we reviewed the strategic risk register. 7 key strategic risks were presented with clear descriptions, controls and residual ratings, ranging from financial stability, which was rated low, technology, infrastructure and cybersecurity, medium to high, climate risk, medium, and workforce capacity, medium. The committee appreciates the simplified format, as I'm sure you all do reading these minutes, and the proactive treatment plans, including monitoring of emerging issues such as the changing to the CEO remuneration bands and community transparency. It's noted that this register is a living document that helps us to anticipate challenges rather than simply react to them. The committee also endorsed the revised 3-year rolling internal audit plan for 26 to 28. We noted that 14 audit actions remain open, with 5 that are currently overdue. The committee expects several of those to be closed in the coming months, and will continue to make sure that this happens to ensure accountability and continuous improvement. On a positive note, the 6-monthly policy and procedure status update showed excellent progress. Of our 104 governance documents, 73% are now current, up from 63% only 6 months earlier. This is tangible evidence that our governance framework is becoming stronger and more reliable. Finally, we endorsed the proposed 2026 Audit and Risk Committee work plan, which has been stated guiding our activities, including budget reviews, cybersecurity updates and subsidiary presentations. I recommend that Council receive and adopt the minutes of 9th December 2025.
Okay, could I just have it scrolled down a bit so that the other way. That's it, so I can actually see what's there. Thank you. That is effectively the motion and all the motion, just the bit at the top there. Sorry? No, because we're adopting the recommendations contained by the report. I'm just making sure that everybody's quite clear on what the motion is. Unlike the previous BDAC report, we received the recommendations, we didn't adopt them. Okay, you're quite clear on the motion, just those first 3 lines.
I think, Chair, if I may, I think we're becoming a bit confused with some of the minutes of committees. Traditionally in the past, council would adopt the recommendations of the minutes of the committee minutes. Any that they disagreed with, they would pull them out and move something different. So we've got a little bit of a bind at the moment with the BDAC ones, which we can talk about later. But as it stands at the moment, the recommendation is that council adopt the minutes of the audit committee as contained there. If there are any my interpretation, if there are any recommendations that the council disagrees with, someone can move that they be adopted with the exception of, etc. Yeah.
Okay, so you've got all the, mind you, I personally think the arguments and things are very good.
And the reason for that, just to clarify, is because if we just have the recommendations are considered by council, we now don't have anything. So all the BDAC recommendations are at the moment not going anywhere. So we need to sort that out at a later time.
Okay. Councillor Palmer.
Just one question, if I can, through the chair. Item 3.2 on page 19 of the agenda, which deals with the net financial liabilities ratio. It's talking there average of less than 50%, which is a reduction on what we used to have, and a maximum of 80% at a point in time. What does that actually mean?
What that means is if that, say we've got 100, I'll let Alex explain it.
That would be preferable.
I might confuse you.
Thank you. Through the chair, members may remember that back on the 1st of December we had a briefing where we talked through the proposed targets, and as part of that, actually I think it even dates back to an August discussion, we incorporated within the long-term financial plan that we'd have an average of less than 50% across the life, across the 10 years, the long-term financial plan, and that at any point in time, the net financial liabilities wouldn't exceed more than 80%. So, for example, you could have 70% in 2 years, but the other years well below 50%, so your average would be less than 50%. So it allows for spikes in an individual year if there is a particular reason for a short-term increase.
Good. Yep. Councillor Russell.
Question through the chair. Just curious. I noticed with this report and some of the financial reports, we just have carried. Nothing's unanimously carried. So my question here is, does that mean none of these motions were unanimous? That constantly there is division within our Audit and Finance Committee, because particularly this one, it's all carried. Just a question, just curious.
Okay. Oh, Natasha.
The practice of the council to record things as unanimous is actually, it's not required as a step to identify that a motion is carried. It's just a symbolic gesture to be recorded. For these purposes, I think almost 100% of the time, they are carried unanimously. It's just that they are recorded as carried. There is no difference for these purposes.
Or just to avoid confusion then, because if you look at the BDAC one, everything is carried unanimously. So I'm just regarding to consistency of how we use that, just being very clear,
Point
because
taken.
with that, that's all.
Yep.
Thank you.
Point taken.
That's all. Just
and it will happen, I'm sure, won't it, Alex? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Brunetsky.
Yeah, look, I agree the summary reports are good. what they do, they provide that little bit of extra information that you just cannot get from the minutes. So it's just that little bit of extra detail that gives context and helps members understand what actually happened at the Audit and Risk Committee. I just want to make a comment also about the policy statement. I think it's great that things have moved ahead so dramatically. It just goes to show that constantly our systems are improving, because we didn't have that as something that had to be reported on the work plan, even though in our terms of reference there is a requirement that the Audit and Risk Committee monitors the updating of policies or review of policies. So I think that that is a good sign, particularly because the policies had fallen into abeyance for quite a long time.
Okay, thank you. Mover?
Close.
No, yeah, those in favour? Unanimous. Okay, thanks. Next, 3.3, the minutes. Councillor Gaffey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Continuing directly from the December minutes, item 3.3, the meeting in March. This meeting was focused, constructive, highly productive, reinforcing the committee's role in providing independent oversight of the city's financial management, risk framework and government arrangements. We opened with the external audit plan presented by Bentley's, now in their third year as our auditors. The Director, Matthew Bernardo, gave a comprehensive overview of their risk assessment, their audit approach, the team and the timeline, with the interim field work scheduled for May and the final field work for September. The committee paid particular attention to 4 key financial statement risks common in local government: asset revaluations, project costing and overheads, grant revenue recognition and asset classification. I personally asked Matthew whether there had been any material issues in these areas over the past 2 years. His clear answer was no. That response, Your Worship, is a strong vote of confidence in the professionalism and diligence of our administration and finance team. Unley continues to be in a robust financial position. We then received a detailed presentation on council-owned property leases, which has been alluded to earlier, building on the February elected member briefing that many of you attended. This session covered our community and commercial leases, the current property management policy and the proposed review process. The committee provided constructive feedback on future policy directions, emphasising the need for a leasing framework that is transparent, fair and easy to understand without causing disruption to our valued tenants. One member noted, however, that using depreciating asset values could help moderate lease amounts over time. This is a concern. The committee fully supports administration's review process and looks forward to seeing the outcomes in due course. Alex Brown then provided important updates on several strategic initiatives, including progress on the long-term financial plan, the migration from Pathway to Technology One for our property and rating project, and new work on the contract management policy and internal financial controls review. It is of note that the full integration of Tech One, the platform, into council requires continued effort and some external support ahead of next year's budget. The transition to Tech One has been a little more challenging than expected, however it appears well in hand. A major focus of the meeting was the Quality Strategic Risk Report. The Principal Risk Management Officer, Jim, outlined revisions to the Strategic Risk Register following the ELT's review on the 26th of February. The committee discussed emerging risks such as AI implications, decision-making transparency and global political economic pressures, as we're seeing more of today. We requested several enhancements, clearer summary of treatment plans in the future reports, explicit references to AI in risk number 2, stronger links between transparency and reputation, which is in risk 6, and ongoing monitoring of economic uncertainty on our budget and the long-term financial plan. These changes will help ensure our risk framework remains relevant, actionable and supportive of strategic decision-making. Following that, we reviewed the quarterly internal audit report, including progress on the grants, administration and community transparency audit, as well as the gifts and benefits policy. Committee provided feedback and resolved to receive the report. I'd like to acknowledge the work done by our internal auditor, Jim Phillips. He's truly across his detail. Again, the open audit actions continued to progress. And then we moved on to endorsing the renewal of the $12 million cash advance debenture facility. This flexible borrowing tool allows Unley Council to manage short-term cash flow efficiently, however offsetting interest costs on major projects such as the Unley Museum and Galleries when we receive money in advance, and will allow us to transition smoothly to more fixed-term debt in line with the long-term financial plan. We also noted that a full debt structure review will occur next year in March 2027 ahead of that budget. In closing, the Audit and Risk Committee is satisfied that administration continues to deliver diligent, transparent and professional work. I therefore recommend that Council receive and adopt these minutes.
Seconded, Councillor Bonham.
Yes, I'll second it. The only follow-up comment I have from Councillor Gaffey's very comprehensive summary of the meeting is that with the auditors, the 4 areas that they're auditing, as Councillor Gaffey noted, they tend to be ones that come up time and again within local government, and they come up time and again because these are the highest risk areas. So it's quite routine for auditors to actually continue to look at those 4 particular areas.
Councillor Brunel.
Yes, look, I was going to ask about the transition to Tech 1, however, Councillor Gaffey has already covered that. On page 33, regarding the clause that talks about administration consider reference to the impact of transparency through decision-making on council's reputation and integrity and key controls in risk number 6, governance and legal risks. I don't know what drove this control, but there is an underpinning element to this. The transparency in decision-making on council's reputation and integrity in key controls more generally is contingent on the information council receives. I refer to the fact that the extent of cyber risks were unknown by elected members for some time and was not included in our strategic risk register until Alex Brown came on board. And when the new chair, Mark Davies, commenced with audit and risk. So, you know, the red flags were up around that time, and I'm very pleased to know that that particular risk has been dealt with. There are other risks that I think we probably should have known about earlier, things like, you know, our risk in relation to outstanding rates. But now we have 6 monthly reporting on that. You know, there was a policy gap for a while, but that was more of a system issue. Also, you know, not having visibility of our operating projects and where they're at in terms of, whether and the impact of those projects, the operating projects and new cap projects that have an impact on our financial liability. And I feel that we need a level of transparency so that we can really make sure that we make sound decisions. And sometimes I don't feel some of that information has been coming forward when, for example, staff were having difficulties with landing the very large number of projects, for example, that were on the books, and then having the impacts on our operating surplus ratio, which, you know, just plummeted. So I was actually quite pleased to see that in the report, actually. So, I mean, it's, you know, the principle of transparency, I think, is just a basic and obvious thing, but it's just so important, and I can cite examples where I feel that things haven't been transparent. So I just thought I'd mention that. The other thing in relation to the summary report on page 40 and the focus on the external audit this year on big ticket areas, I was quite pleased to see that, actually. the asset revaluation side of things, that's just such a big chunk of business. And so having that recurring in our audit, external audits, I think is positive. We've introduced a 10% indexation over the past couple of years, so it would be good to see how that has had an impact on our revaluations. And the other three items have been mentioned by Councillor Bonham and Councillor Gaffey. So, yeah, I'll be very interested to see where that external audit lands and what recommendations come out of that. That's all I had for that.
Okay. Just before I hand over to Councillor Gaffey to close, I'm at... Oh, sorry, Councillor Palmer.
Sorry to interrupt you, but it's been sitting there for about 4 minutes.
You may, before I speak, have a word.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'll be supporting the motion, but on a lighter note, I just thought it would... I just make the point for the members and the staff that every item on this this committee's meeting were carried unanimously.
Yeah, I was hoping somebody wouldn't pick that up. The only comment I've got also is I'm absolutely delighted with the council action records and the way things are reported overall. And if you've got any concerns about the transparency of the arrangements, please contact Alex. He'll be a good point on our money. Councillor Gaffey, close. Those in favour? Unanimous. Next, we're up to final local area traffic management plan for Fullerton. God, there was a big response from the community, wasn't there? Councillor Gaffey, you better move this because you're the... Oh, you're going to move it? Because it does affect your ward too, doesn't it? Yes, Councillor Bonham, off you go.
I really don't have a lot to say on this except that we've had excellent consultation on it. We've had 2 rounds of consultation with our community, and based on the first round of consultation, staff modified and expanded the traffic management treatments and advocacies proposed. This came back to ward councillors, so the 4 relevant ward councillors for this area, and we proposed suggestions as well. With that, there was a second round of consultation which saw a minimum of 50% of outright support for all measures, and this increased significantly, this support, if we consider neutral as tacit support or at least not opposed to a project. So I think that shows excellent support for each of our proposed treatments. As a result, again, so as I said, that went back out to the community as a result of further feedback. One of the recommendations was actually removed, and that was because it significantly impacted residents on a neighbouring street, and there wasn't there was support for it within the street itself, but that impact on the adjacent street, and it wasn't critical to the overall LATM, so that was removed. With that second round of consultation, another 5 recommendations have been added, and that's a mix of treatments and advocacy to Department of Infrastructure and Transport. The staff then went on. I think staff need to be congratulated on their willingness to listen to feedback and to provide really sound rationale for either continuing with their proposals, modifying their proposals, or taking a proposal out. So I think that's excellent community engagement. So, as I said, staff have provided 2 briefings to ward councillors and given careful consideration to feedback from the community and councillors. And while some residents wanted more treatments, others wanted less treatments, decisions on whether or not to proceed on the various treatments and advocacy were based on effective safety outcomes. So I think it's an important document. Priorities, I didn't finish that one off. Staff have then assigned priorities to each of the treatments in the various streets and have put a timeline against each of those treatments. So we've actually, moving forward, we've actually got a really clear plan of action into the future out of this LATM, which is what we've hoped for with all of our LATMs, so that we can then gradually work through them in a systematic fashion and fund them accordingly over the coming years. So I hope you'll support our LATM.
Councillor Gaffey.
Thank you, Your Worship. I note Councillor Hughes isn't here as he's off supporting his female bowls team, which won the grand final last week, so he's an unfortunate apology. However, Councillor Hughes and I campaigned on this very issue at the 2022 election to get immediately an LATM for this area there. Immediately appears to be 3.5 years. This LATM is essential for safety, for pedestrians and bicycles, for traffic calming. It's proceeded through a series of stages as listed on page 46, and we've alluded to stages 1 through 4. We're at the point now where we're going to adopt the recommendations there. There's been 2 rounds of engagement. There's been letters, public displays, emails. The amount of work that Councillor Bonham has described by Tanya Bassick and her staff has been amazing. And they do get back to residents. They do try and present a balanced approach. And this is, the best work that we can do. The drafts have been proposed. As Councillor Bonham has noted, that all 4 councillors went through this and had input on it, and we discussed where we thought things could be improved and whether we need everything. Touching on the recommendations, there are 6 that will take effect, which will pretty much be in the next term of council there, over 4 years there, 6 out of the 15. So some of those will be a little bit further down the track. However, some of these of note will impact the 50-kilometre streets such as Wattle, Ferguson and Fisher, which will inherently calm these down and provide a much safer traffic transport along these areas there. So even if we're not going to get some support from the state government, the work of this LATM will help improve the traffic along those roads. So I commend this to the Chamber.
Well done. Councillor Russo, you speak in favour?
I'd just like to make one comment. We have been doing, I guess, LATMs for some time now, many years, and from just my time on council, when an LATM has come up for us to look at, I believe that we're starting to, I don't know if this is the right word, perfect the process at least. Yes, every area is slightly different, has different challenges, et cetera, but I think for me there's a lot of information here, but it felt familiar, it felt like due diligence has been done, the consultation as everything's noticed. So I'd just like to recognise this as a process that I believe that I think council does extremely well, with that balance of the right consultation, engaging councillors and the reporting side of it. So I guess I'm just congratulating the team on this tenure in your team, because I think this is effective and does really work now in regards to what we do, and they do take a lot of effort and a lot of time, but they're important, and we are getting through all of the areas to do that, and then we'll start all over again, I guess. But yeah, I just thought that's worth noting.
Okay, Tanya and team, you've done well. Next. Councillor Branicki.
Yes, look, just a question about Florence Street. The residents there, they've suggested they have raised platforms instead of humps. There must be a logic for that, and for having humps down Florence Street as opposed to the platforms. I just wondered what that would be. There'd be technical reasons, I presume, but also there'll be a process, of course, won't there, in terms of letting residents know so they understand the technicalities of between the two.
Which street, Councillor Brunetsky?
Florence.
Oh, Florence. Got it. Yep.
Through the Mayor, or through the Chair. So with Florence Street, it had quite high speeds as an 85th percentile at 47. We deliberately chose the Watts profile as the initial approach because it's quite a lengthy street, and Watts profiles are proven to be more effective in reducing speeds compared to flat top speed humps. So as an example, on Mill Street, which was part of LATM3, we actually removed the flat top speed humps and installed the Watts profiles to achieve a more effective speed reduction, combined with the chicanes. And in addition, on Florence Street, there's a number of driveways. We tried to position the speed humps underneath street lighting so that we didn't have to create new lighting infrastructure, which adds a significant additional cost. And then to try and achieve that, the Watts profile is a much smaller speed hump in terms of width, which enabled it to be achieved within the existing crossovers as well as the opposite crossovers. So it was well considered. We did propose the flat stop speed humps on Catherine Street, but that's a much lower speed profile along Catherine Street. So we do consider the different types of treatments, and in addition it's a bike route, so they're less disruptive as a cyclist goes over them. So it's a much more comfortable ride. Does that answer?
And it's well supported. Close? Oh, sorry, Councillor Bonham, close.
Close.
Those in favour? No, well done. Excellent. I agree with Councillor Russo. And thank you for the four of you, and Councillor Hughes in absence. Next, AFWL. Do I have a mover? Councillor Russo, thank you.
I'm happy to move the motion that the provision of Unley Oval as the home ground for Adelaide Football Club women's team for 2026, while this, I guess I've heard they don't like Nord, they like Unley, they like where it's situated, they like the facilities and so forth, so that's why they've come to us. And this is obviously only for this year while their home at Thebarton gets finalised. So I think this is exactly what we do. There's an opportunity that we would be gain some costs for their use of here. That's what the oval is there for use, for others to use. It is an oval for sport, so I'm supporting this motion and look forward to our community being able to engage with the women's team for the rest of this year.
Second it, Councillor Palmer.
Before I second it, I just want to clarify, we are talking option 1, which includes finals if applicable.
Sorry.
Is that correct?
Well, sorry. Could I just ask the staff just to confirm?
Well, there is option 1 in the body of the report says includes the finals. Option 2 is just regular season.
Are you seconding it?
With the finals, option 1, I am prepared to second it. If there is a disadvantage to this, it's the impact on the cricket club. But having said that, the cricket club is used to delayed starts on their home ground. Just like with Goodwood, if the football teams manage to get to the finals, then the cricket season is delayed. So this has happened to the cricket club previously with the AFLW, so I don't see any harm. But if there is a deficit, that's the area.
Councillor Bonham.
Yes, I just wanted to reinforce that point from Councillor Palmer, and hence my questions to the to administration today about the impact on the cricket club, and that does concern me. I think we really need to look after our cricket club. They have been here for over 100 years, so I'm concerned that we try to accommodate them as best we can. My other question was about how, when we actually excluded the community from use of the Oval, is it possible for us to reduce that exclusion? So, for example, apparently the exclusion starts at 9 a.m. on the Saturday if it's a Sunday game. So is it possible to actually close the gates at 12 noon or something to reduce the time of exclusion?
I'll ask the CO to answer it because the answers to the questions I got from the CO.
Through the chair, my advice was that that's the time required for our ground staff to go around and remediate any areas of the Oval. So I don't think we can, unfortunately, reduce that.
Okay. Mover.
I think this is just another opportunity for our Oval to be showcased, and great for women's sport and for our young people in our community to get round this and be round. I don't go for crows, but there's other people that do, and I think it's great.
Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Next, conservation grants. There's a tree needing remediating. Somebody like to move the adoption? Thank you, Councillor Palmer. Good. You don't need to speak. Second, Councillor Beat.
Reserve my right.
Does anybody want to speak? Councillor Palmer. Those in favour? Yeah, it's a very good project, I think. Next, the Greek flag. You've got it at home. Did you bring it with you? You're not presumpting the council meeting, I hope, Councillor Finos.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not surprising, I will be supporting the request to fly the national flag of Greece on the 25th of March in recognition of Greek Independence Day and the enduring contribution of the Greek community of Unley. The 25th of March marks Greek Independence Day, a significant national day for many in our community. The influence of the Greek community has had on the fabric of Unley cannot be understated. As the Consul General of Greece in Adelaide wrote in her email, and I quote, "The Greek community of Adelaide is long-standing and vibrant and has contributed significantly over many generations to the social, cultural and economic development of the city, while upholding values of democracy, freedom and mutual respect. Flying the Greek flag on the 25th of March at the municipal location would be a meaningful and symbolic gesture, recognising both this important historical anniversary and the shared values that bring our community together. Such a gesture would be deeply appreciated by the Greek community of Unley and would send a strong message of inclusion, unity and respect within our multicultural city." End of quote. And in speaking with many people of Greek origin residing in the city of Unley, they repeatedly told me that there's no prouder moment than seeing the Greek flag flying outside the city of Unley chambers, recognising their national day. And in doing so, I would like to extend their great appreciation and thank the city of Unley. I encourage my fellow elected members to support the request to fly the national flag of Greece on the 25th of March.
Can you second it, Councillor Crabb? Do you wish to reserve your right?
Yeah, look, I'm just someone who's very passionate about the flying of national flags in this chamber. I'm happy to second that motion and also acknowledge the proud Greek community across the city, but also in the ward of Goodwood.
Mover. Those in favour? Big surprise, unanimous. Next, that's the Greek flag. Council action records, Councillor Bonham. Seconded, Councillor Brunetsky. Mover.
Close.
Well done with the council action records. Those in favour? Unanimous. Next, motion we've dealt with from Councillor Brunetsky. Questions for notice. Councillor Bonham are there to be looked at. The Mayor's report needs a mover and a seconder. If so, anybody's prepared. Thank you, Councillor Gaffey. Councillor Doyle. Close. Those in favour? Those against? Do it again. Those in favour? Unanimous. I'd get told off by Councillor Palmer afterwards over nut nibbles if I had passed that one unanimously because he knew he hadn't voted. No, mate, you have to vote. Okay, next. Deputy Mayors, you come up to move that, Councillor Palmer. That seconder? Yeah, Councillor Crabb. Mover? Those in favour? Unanimous. Reports of members that there to be looked at. Confidentiality motion, moved Councillor Gaffey, seconded Councillor Brunetsky.